The Oxford English Dictionary defines an archive as a collection of historical documents or records providing information about a place, institution, or group of people. However, if you have ever been to an archives repository or done any type of research, then you know that an archive is so much more. An archive is a living representation of people and places that are no longer in existence. With every photograph, letter, document, or artifact, there is the story of a person who lived and a place that existed long ago.
I am Nina Postyapak, the 45th Clerk of the County of Ulster. Like all the clerks before me, I am the records custodian for Ulster County. Yearly, thousands of people search, file, and record land records, legal documents, and court papers in this office and in countless other archives in New York State. The earliest record on file here is dated May 31st, 1658. On that day, residents of Esopus were ordered by Peter Stuyvesant to abandon their individual homes, move to a common, defendable spot, and surround it by a fort. How do we know this? We have the primary records. Documents of enduring value are being created, filed, and recorded every day in the clerk's office, proving title to our real property, documenting the proceedings of our courts, and bearing witness to the decisions of our legislators. Let's take a look at other ways people use archival records.
Thanks to everyone for the great time I had doing my Native American research. The colonial court records were the earliest primary documents I have seen so far. John Smith.
I had a very interesting experience working with the old maps of Ulster County. The information I obtained from the maps helped me with my school project. Ann Ortega.
I received the package today. I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate what you've done. I am a direct descendant of Willem Traphagen, and to see his signature almost exactly 336 years later is indescribable. I am literally stunned at seeing all of this, and also deeply indebted to you. Thank you so much. You have literally made my day. Mitch Traphagen.
Document and artifact preservation has become an increasingly important field. The smallest piece of paper can have a profound effect on a person's life. So what do we do with these documents and artifacts once we find, catalog, and shelve them? The first thing we do is to make sure that they are properly conserved. This includes piecing together fragmented documents, removing stains from photographs, and carefully wrapping objects for long-term storage, and many other conservation techniques. Next, we need to make the documents and artifacts accessible to the public while still maintaining their original integrity. This can be done in a variety of ways. Microfilming and scanning documents provides an image that can be viewed or printed without having to handle the original. This very fragile document is the personal ledger of John Hasbrouck. John was born a slave servant. He was freed sometime between 1820 and 1830, as evidenced by his ledger, which documents the labor he provided and the compensation he received for it in return. Scanning technology protects John Hasbrouck's ledger in crisp clarity. For items that are too big to scan, photographs and written descriptions serve as representations for the public. Whether you are researching from home, the library, or the classroom, access to the archives is easier than ever. However, the archives are still available for the public to see in person. Sometimes seeing an actual signature in ink on the original document can mean so much more. Documents provide clues that help us to study the past in unusual ways. By studying journals, maps, charts, and official reports, archaeologists were able to locate the sunken remains of the sailing canal schooner Troy in Lake Champlain, a sailing boat that sank in a sudden gale in November 1825.
I think without the pre-knowledge that there had been a loss, we never would have found the schooner Troy, never learned about the tragedy of the loss of those 5 young men and boys, never seen a transitional vessel that was designed immediately after the opening of the Champlain Canal that has taught us much about the evolution of naval architecture in this country. We would really be at a loss. With the modern side-scan sonar, with modern differential GPS, with computers that can actually capture and manage all that data, we are finally in a position where you can take millions, literally millions of bits of data and store them and recall them and rerun lines in the comfort of your office to re-examine things that you might have hastily missed in the field. It's also accessible to other researchers who 100 years later may have a different question they want to ask and a different way of going about looking at answers. And so these scientific databases, data sets, are going to be invaluable for decades to come.
Nous sommes ici pour signer ce document-là. C'est très important pour ma soeur et pour moi. Ça va, bien. Vite, vite, viens. Tu dois signer.
1 year after the death of her father, the orphaned 11-year-old Sarah Freer is signing a contract which will bind her to the minister de Bon Repos for the next 3 years. While living with the minister and his family, Sarah will learn the trade of dressmaking.
Je dois faire ça, je dois faire ça. Voilà. Monsieur, tu dois signer ici.
Welcome to Huguenot Street. Today you're here to learn about how people lived a long time ago.
Classes come to historic Huguenot Street and other historic sites to learn what life was like for people living in the 17th and 18th centuries.
And the artifacts you have that you're looking at could have belonged to a girl named Sarah Freer. And this document tells us a lot about her life. She was a dressmaker's apprentice. And what she did is she went to live with another family when she was only 11 years old. They taught her how to read and write. They promised to feed and clothe her. But in exchange for that, she had to be an apprentice. She worked for the dressmaker, and she eventually learned how to be a dressmaker, and that became her trade.
Out of the turmoil of the Revolutionary War, New Yorkers crafted a set of revolutionary ideas. In the state constitution of 1777, they included and endorsed the Declaration of Independence.
In Convention of the Representatives of this State of New York, Kingston, 20th April, 1777. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
But all men and women were not treated as equals, and there are countless documents marking our search for equality and justice. Sojourner Truth was born into slavery on a farm in Hurley, New York, and began her journey right here in Ulster County. Isabella, her birth name, is shown on the list of property from her deceased owner's will. In Charles Hardenberg's 1810 estate inventory, Isabella was valued at $100, and her mother Bet was valued at only $1. In 1826, Isabella escaped to freedom and went to work for the Van Wagenens, a Quaker family. While there, she learned that her 8-year-old son, Peter, had been sold illegally to a plantation in Alabama. With the help of Quaker activists, she took the issue to court. Solomon Gedney, the man accused of transporting Peter out of New York, was summoned to appear with the boy at the Ulster County Courthouse. This started a landmark legal battle in which Isabella, a free black woman, fought Solomon Gedney, a white slave owner, for the life of her son. And she won. Sojourner Truth became one of the first free black women to win a court case, and she did so right here at the Ulster County Courthouse. But sometimes information that we might expect to find in archives is hard to locate.
There are biases in how information is recorded, or even in who is allowed to create documents. Throughout the colonial period, most African Americans were held in slavery, even here in New York. It was illegal for anyone to teach them how to read and write. Thus, it was rare for any black to be able to write down his or her experiences as an enslaved person. More commonly, we see slavery through the eyes of their owners, like in this 1777 bill of sale. Here are young boys being sold, just as if he were an animal or a piece of furniture. He had a mother and a father, perhaps he had siblings, but they're not referenced in this bill of sale. This and countless documents like it show the pernicious evil that slavery was. We marvel how long it took to end.
Although slavery was abolished in New York in 1827, it would take a costly and tragic civil war and the loss of hundreds of thousands of lives before it was finally ended throughout America. In July 1863, Kingston residents waited anxiously to hear news from the Battle of Gettysburg. Kingston had many men fighting in the 120th Regiment under General George H. Sharp, a fellow Kingston resident. The news received was grim.
It's my boy, it's my son!
General Sharp's 120th Regiment from Kingston fought on the front lines at Gettysburg on July 3, 1863. The regiment reported to battle with 440 men, but returned home with only 237. The total loss that day was 203 men, almost half of the entire regiment. Of the many provocative documents that survive from the Civil War, posters listing the killed, wounded, and missing in action show us today just how much suffering was endured by not only the men on the battlefield, but also by those women and children left behind. Julia Lawrence was born in New York City in 1809. She later relocated with her husband to his original birthplace in Stone Ridge, Ulster County, New York. In the fall of 1909, Julia's daughter donated the building to the community, which is still used as the Stone Ridge Library.
April 16th, 1851. I wrote this journal for a reference in years to come. Was affected yesterday reading the journal of 1840. 11 years have passed away. Remsen, then an infant 1-year-old, is now a large boy, a scholar of Latin and French. My 3 babies at that time have now outgrown their mother. The loss of my 4th child, a little girl, my painful sickness, and the peculiar sorrows of that period come back fresh to my memory. February 28th, 1862. This is the last day of winter, the momentous winter of war, rebellion, and uncertainty. Tomorrow, Saturday, will bring us spring and we hope peace. If not just now, before another fall. The crisis of events are coming to a close. The Union victories are glorious, and the South beginning to find out the folly of their treason. Soon all may be united under the old flag, and prosperity follow in the wake of this wicked rebellion. March 12, 1866. I spent 2 hours on this very commonplace book. It is almost a disgrace to my pen and powers. Could I write with regularity and some of my inward life and less of other people's actions, it would be far more profitable and entertaining. My next book of events, if spared to relate them, shall be carefully written for my daughter's profit when I'm gone. She shall then see a picture of the inner life, the thought that daily passed through the mind of a dreamer.
All 18 of Julia Lawrence Hasbrook's diaries were discovered in a storage chest in the mid-20th century. They have survived the last 170 years, residing in Julia's final home. Thanks to the advancements in photography beginning in the mid-19th century, we have thousands of photographs that give us a look back. These pictures help us to see and better understand our past. If indeed a picture is worth 1,000 words, then photographs are some of our most precious documents. Archival repositories also house historic film footage, videotape, and DVDs that provide a wealth of historical information. The sounds and images make us witness to some of the most monumental historic events in world history.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
Documents are sometimes discovered in unusual ways or in unexpected places, shedding surprising insight on historic events or revealing rare personal details about people famous or not so famous. Daisy Suckley, a cousin and close friend and confidant of Franklin Roosevelt, lived in Wilderstein, her family home in Rhinebeck, until her death at age 99 in 1991.
I always get a chill when I come here, especially now that she's gone.
If these walls could talk, think about everything that they've witnessed, everything that they've heard in the past 150 years.
We've got more to inventory.
They never threw anything away. I don't think they even knew everything that they had here.
Time and again over the years, Daisy had been interviewed by historians and researchers for her eyewitness accounts of events during the tumultuous years of Roosevelt's presidency. Time and again, she was asked if she had kept a diary, or if she knew of any other papers relating to FDR. Oh heavens, she'd answer, why would I save any of that old stuff?
Okay, that's about it for her bedroom. Is there anything else?
What the? There's something under the bed.
What?
It's, oh, you're not going to believe this.
What is it?
It's letters. Dozens, scores of letters. Letters she wrote to Roosevelt. Letters he wrote to her. 1941, 1942, 1945. There's got to be 50 or more in here.
Kept all these years secretly under her bed. Pages and pages of private letters.
Daisy Suckley's private correspondence has been preserved, studied, published and shared, and continues to reveal new insights about Roosevelt, Daisy, and the incredible experiences they shared. The history of the Hudson Valley begins more than 7,000 years ago, when Native Americans first arrived. In 1677, the Esopus, a band of the Lenape people, sold 40,000 acres of land to the newly arrived Huguenots. Professor Joseph Diamond of the Anthropology and Archaeology Department at the State University of New York at New Paltz holds field school excavations on historic Huguenot Street.
Look, Professor Diamond, look what I found!
While Hudson's voyage of discovery meant a future of lucrative trade for the Dutch, it meant eventual disaster for the indigenous people that he encountered.
The people of the country came flocking aboard and brought us grapes and pompions, which we bought for trifles. And many brought us beaver skins and otter skins, which we bought for beads, knives, and hatchets.
Many years and 2 wars later, these conflicts ended when a lasting peace was established by treaty in 1665.
We are all brethren, and what befalls one befalls us all.
In the end, the Lenape were driven west to Wisconsin, Oklahoma, and southern Ontario, Canada. Today we are reminded of their former presence by some of the few remaining traces of their people, signatures on official primary documents, and by this wampum belt, their gift to us in peace. Let this belt honor them. Let this belt signify for us today what it signified for them in their time. Let it remind us to recognize all people, to practice tolerance, and to celebrate our cultural differences in peace.
Every day, someone, somewhere is having an experience like one of these. Our history is alive and well, just waiting for you to seek it out. Here in Ulster County, with such a rich history and so many repositories available, you never know what you might find. Our history lives on through those who seek it out. The essence of a person never dies so long as they are remembered. A building is never truly gone as long as its image remains. We protect, preserve, and present history for you. So the next time your curiosity gets the better of you, come visit us at the Senate House, the historic Huguenot Street, the Ulster County Clerk's Archives, or any of the other many repositories. We're just as excited as you to find out something new.